Hello there, my friend. This is Raju. So glad you're joining me for this new chapter of the Bold Conscious Connection show. I've been thinking a lot about how to make this show even more valuable to you, and I decided to try something different this season. I'm calling it season 5. No guests for now, no formal interviews, just you and me having real conversations about life changing moments and lessons that they've taught me. Now, I will from time to time bring guests as well. I'm not giving that up. But I just thought I'd intersperse some of those with these episodes. So today I want to share something very personal, a moment that completely changed how I think about success and what it really means to me. December 26, 2004. Man, that date is forever burned in my memory. Anyone who knows me knows about this. My family and I were on vacation in Sri Lanka while we were living in New York. We went to visit Sri Lanka, staying at our friend's beach home. Beautiful place, not too far, well, 4 hours from Colombo. Right on the ocean, literally 100 feet from the shoreline, is where their house was. I was still in bed that morning around 9 a.m. when I heard this sound. It's hard to describe. When it's like the ocean just changed. And if you can imagine the ocean coming to you while I'm sleeping in my room, my wife, Kim, was banging on my door, screaming, "Run, run, run." Well, let me tell you, as someone who cannot swim and has drowned before and been rescued before, that was about 9 years earlier, terrified of water, this was my absolute nightmare that came to life. I mean, I grabbed my glasses, tried to get out, but the water was already in my room, rushing in. And through the door, I could see my daughter, who was 19 at the time, and my wife, and our little boy, Evan. He was just 2 years old. And then our 6-year-old other son, Nicholas, wasn't even to be found. He had run ahead somewhere with his friends and our friends' kids. What happened next still feels surreal to me when I talk about it. I got goosebumps right here, guys. We tried to escape this 30-foot wall of water that was coming at us at what I'm told now is 60 to 80 miles an hour. I mean, that's like the speed of a fast car. So I grabbed the baby from my wife's, then we started running. And just in that moment, when my wife was saying, "Don't look behind," there was that wave that took us in. We were thrown into not deep water, but away from the water into mainland. And you could imagine how high that wall of water was coming at that speed. And I can't even tell you. So I lost, the grip of my son, who was on my shoulder, as I went under. Unforgettable. Unforgettable. Do you know what that feeling when both time suddenly stops and yet speeds up? Somehow, when I came back up on the surface, which could have been, for all I know, hours, I have no idea, all I could hear was people screaming, crying out like for their children. I was frantic, realized my voice was gone with all the debris and water inside my body. I was just frantic, calling out for my 2 little boys and my daughter. I had no idea where anyone was. And with my glasses gone, I couldn't see a thing. Very bad eyesight was what I'm talking about. But it was like I could barely see 2 or 3 feet without my glasses on. I'll never forget the relief when I saw my daughter, or heard my daughter spotting my 2-year-old, finally found him on a branch. And when we heard that the 6-year-old also had been found clinging to a tree trunk with his eye tight shut. Now, a lot of this is too descriptive for me to go through in this conversation here, but it's in my book. But point is that eventually, all is to say, we all made it out safely. People rescued people. I was rescued, as were my kids, clearly by other people. And when my children were brought on to me one by one, we were on this big truck at the top of the hill, actually not that far from the ocean, but we were somehow, sitting at the top. That circle of us hugging each other tight, that's a moment that for me changed everything. everything. We had survived. What we later learned was the Indian Ocean tsunami. I mean, I had never heard of the word tsunami until then. The same one that took nearly 300,000 lives across 14 countries in that area. And of course, the worst hit at the time was Indonesia, followed by India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, which a lot of people think of it as a Thailand tsunami. But a death is a death. I'm not sharing this to be dramatic, guys. I'm sharing it because in that moment, that terrifying, raw moment, I had this incredible, incredible clarity. All the things that I had been stressing about just simply vanished. My big job at Morgan Stanley, my title, my bank account, none of it mattered. I mean, for God's sakes, I was in my boxer shorts and a t-shirt. And my children didn't even have, sandals on their feet. I mean, we had to borrow them from other people. So the only thing that mattered in that moment was the people I loved. Fast forward when we got back to New York a few days later, our home, something had fundamentally shifted in me, and I'm sure in my family, but this is just my perspective. So, I'm not even going into other people's perspectives and my wife's or my children's perspective. They have their own stories to tell of survival. But you see, I'd been thinking about leaving my corporate job for about 2 years to start my own business, but I always had reasons to stay. You know how they say, one of my bosses had often said, we only pay you enough so you don't quit. But then you feel it's secure. The prestige is nice. The paycheck certainly was. And what would people say anyway? Like, what are you doing? You quitting your 18-year career at this Wall Street firm and you can leave? But after the tsunami, those barriers just seemed so artificial to me. I went the other extreme. I said, life's too precious, right? Life is not just short. Life is precious and fickle because you just don't know how long you're alive. We just don't know how long we have. So I made up my mind. I didn't have all the answers about how I would manage without that income, but I was crystal clear on why I needed to make that change. That's a subject for another episode. And that was 20 years ago. 5 startups later. Has it been easy? Hell no. Has it been worth it? Absolutely. I've built 5 businesses since then. And while it's been a roller coaster, some of my family will tell you, like, how did you get here? What are you doing? Why did you do this? Well, all I can say is, forget what looks on the outside. The joy has been incredible. I mean, really. I wouldn't trade it for what could have been a comfortable, but potentially an unfulfilled retirement. I'm 69 now, and I just know for a fact, everybody thinks I'm retired, and the truth is I'm not, okay? Here's why I'm telling you all this. I work with executives all the time who are exactly the position I was in. They're in their 40s. I was 49 when this happened. They're successful. On paper and otherwise, they seem successful. But when we talk privately, they confess that they're deeply unfulfilled. And they're all waiting for something to happen, the right time, more security, more money in the bank, maybe after the kids go to college, maybe. And this is not just about the job or careers. It could be about the relationships, which are strained or estranged in some cases, but they're looking for permission, the perfect circumstances. But the biggest lesson that the tsunami taught me was it is impossible to be stuck. That feeling of being stuck, it's an illusion, my friends. It's our minds that create that feeling. Ask yourself, what are you really waiting for? What if you approached your career, your business, your life, your relationships with the clarity that comes from almost losing everything, as in my case? We feel stuck, but we're not stuck. That's actually not possible. It's our job to dig deeper and find the courage to live our dreams, whatever they might be. And one of my friends says that you just are full of ambition. Well, I'm sorry, you may be confusing ambition with dreams or desires. Well, after we lose our life, there is no desire, there's no dream. So while you're living, just live fully with whatever it is your deep desire is, because you're not going to stop desiring till you die. I mean, most of our adult lives are formed by conditional thinking. From childhood, we're taught how to do certain things, follow certain paths. Our free spirit gives way to what our parents, teachers, society expect. And I know I'm not telling you anything new. You probably already know this, but then you don't do anything about it. And then we wait for the right time. The number of years have to pass. You have to be a certain age, as if that's guaranteed. And at some point, we start craving that freedom, whatever that freedom is. Maybe the childlike freedom. Why? Because deep down, we realize we're living someone else's version of our life. And I'm sure you've heard this many, many times. So what's another voice trying to tell you this? So here's what I want you to do after listening to this episode, or watching it if you're watching it on YouTube. Just 3 simple questions. Really sit with these questions. Number 1, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you really do? Not what's practical. I mean, what would you really do? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? Number 2, if your time was suddenly cut short by any of these things I talked about, what would you regret not having done or tried? I'll repeat the question because it's worth repeating. If your time was suddenly cut short, as mine was almost cut short, what would you regret not having done or having tried to do? Number 3, what one step you could take today, doesn't matter how small, toward the life you truly want? Listen, freedom is illusory as well. Freedom also has a price. So be more clear about what you mean by freedom. More money buys you freedom. Perhaps it buys you good things. But think about what that means. One step you could take today, doesn't matter how small, toward the life you truly want. And just write down honest answers, my friend. Don't overthink this. Just pick one action based on what you discovered, and just do it this week. Write it down, capture it, do it this week. But to be clear, I'm not talking about you quitting your job tomorrow or making some dramatic change overnight, okay? Even I didn't do that. It took me 2 months to finally resign. I never went back to work, by the way, because we were going through our other stuff, medical issues and so on, coming from the rescue. I'm just talking about you reconnecting with who you truly are and taking one step in that direction. Just one step. Look, the tsunami changed everything for me because it made the decision for me to face what matters. I don't want to live with regrets, though, and I'm guessing you don't either. The good news is you don't need to have a near-death experience or to lose somebody very close to you to gain this clarity. You can choose it right now. Next week, I'll share with you how, next episode, because I may have a guest next week for all I know. Anyway, next week, I'll share how I navigated leaving my corporate career, the uncertainties, the fears, and the key principles that helped me build those businesses from the beginning. Until then, remember, you're not stuck. You're just one decision away from living a different life. Thank you again for spending time with me on Bold Conscious Connections. Stay bold, stay conscious, my friend. And if this resonated with you, share with someone who might need to hear it. Maybe it's not you. Share with them. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell button below. And if you are a listener, then please go ahead and subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast, on Spotify or Apple. Take care, my friend.